Billionaire's son speaks out after hearing Janitor sing beautifully in Italian. The grand Sinclair estate was buzzing, glitz, glamour, and whispers of something nobody could quite explain. Lucas Sinclair, the 25-year-old heir who had always vanished into the background of his family's sprawling fortune, suddenly found himself staring at a truth he never expected. It all started with a voice. That night, hidden away in a dimly lit hallway, where chandeliers' glow barely reached, Lucas heard it. A voice so pure, so haunting it stopped time. Marco, the janitor nobody really noticed, was singing an Italian aria, all heart and fire wrapped in a humble crook of solitude. The sound cracked the silence like glass, raw and trembling. Lucas's chest tightened. He leaned against the cold marble wall, breath caught, heart pounding. Lucas's world, the endless parties, the glittering eyes of society, the suffocating weight of his family's legacy, felt suddenly brittle, shallow. In Marco's voice soared, trembling on notes that held years of secret dreams and locked-up pain. Later, when Lucas found Marco sweeping a forgotten corner, lined with peeling wallpaper and cold teacups, he smiled. It was the beginning of a strange, unthinkable friendship that rippled through the Sinclair mansion's gilded halls like a scandalous shockwave. Why would the son of a billionaire care about a janitor's dreams? But Lucas didn't care anymore. Yet beneath the melody and friendship, shadows lurked. There was a family secret, tangled in silk curtains and whispered arguments. Something dark enough to shatter the Sinclair empire. Lucas stumbled onto it by accident late one night. Papers, hushed voices, a photo that didn't belong in the family archive. His breath hitched, blood thundering in his ears. Was everything he'd accepted a lie? Meanwhile, Marco's own hope for stardom wasn't just a dream. It was a desperate fire. A past stained with tough streets, broken promises, and a cling to the perfect, icy cage of wealth. Or risk everything, including the fragile trust he'd built with the man who'd unlocked his soul. Tensions spun tighter with every whispered betrayal and coded glance. Lucas trembled between fear and fierce hope, torn by the cost of finding himself in a world that wanted to keep him silent forever. Could love save him? Could truth? The estate, glowing by day with endless luxury, felt colder now, darker. And still Marco's voice echoed in Lucas's mind, an ache, a promise, a question. How far would he go? How deep could he fall? And at what price? Hey, before you continue with this incredible story, I have an important warning for you. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content. And while you're there, leave that powerful like. It helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love meeting all the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes a difference. Let's interact. Lucas stood in the heart of the Grand Sinclair estate, his thoughts a chaotic whirlwind. The tension hung thick in the air, only shadows melting into darkness. A tightrope dance between the life he'd known and the unknown paths threatening to unravel it. Marco's voice echoed in his mind, a haunting melody that trailed behind him like a ghost seeking freedom. But just as he was about to seek out Marco to share glimpses of his newfound courage, everything changed. The front door swung open, the creaking of old hinges breaking the fragile silence. A woman stormed in, her face a mask of fury, eyes ablaze. It was Clara, Lucas's cousin, always wrapped in wealth, and you need to see this. The ruckus in her voice, the desperation, pulled him forward. They rushed to the lavish sitting room where a gathering had formed. His parents, their tightly knitted friend group, each face locked in shock. On the grand mahogany table lay a collection of documents, scattered like witness reports after a crime. Clara pointed to the center page where a single word struck like lightning. Betrayal. Lucas's heart raced. He stepped closer, eyes widening as the truth unveiled itself. Stock reports, clandestine meetings, and multiple signatures. People he trusted were tied to illicit dealings. Business partners were implicated in a scheme that siphoned money from the Sinclair fortune. But there was more. His breath hitched. Clara's finger trembled as it pointed to a faded photo in the corner. Slightly yellowed with age, it depicted a younger Marco, hand in hand with Lucas's mother. A surge of disbelief crashed over him, the room spinning as Lucas struggled to. Marco wasn't just a janitor. He was part of the Sinclair family. "Mom, what is this?" Lucas gasped, eyes darting between the old portrait and his mother's pale face. Lucas's mother faltered, color draining from her features. "It's complicated. The past can be cruel." "Cruel!" Lucas shouted, disbelief morphing into fury. "You've hidden this from me? From everyone?" The words burned as they left his mouth. The murmurs of the onlookers enveloped him, shock pooling as they processed the revelation. Clara's eyes were wide, glimmering with a mix of fear and excitement. "Marco is your half-brother," Clara whispered, a hint of accusation in her voice, as if she wanted Lucas to feel every ounce of the reality that was crashing down. The air thickened, tremor snaked through Lucas's chest. All the moments, the small gestures shared with Marco, came flooding back. Was that why Marco's voice had touched him so deeply? Was there a bond he had never known? A specter of familial love hidden beneath layers of lies? "No, this can't be," Lucas stammered, eyes darting from Clara to his mother, searching for sanity. "You can't just drop this bombshell on me. What about everything? The friendship, the singing, the way it made me feel? Was it all a lie?" Silence enveloped them, a suffocating blanket. Then Lucas felt it, a sharper sting, deeper than the betrayal. The stakes had risen. Everything was unraveling, and yet he had no clear path. From behind the door, he could hear Marco humming the same aria, unaware of the tempest brewing within Sinclair's walls. The ache in his heart tightened. How far did this go? What was real? The weight of uncertainty pressed down on him as he turned, eyes filled with more questions than answers. Standing on this precipice, would he confront Marco with the truth? Would betrayal drive them apart, or pull them together in an unexpected way? Lucas stood frozen, heart pounding as he faced the storm gathering behind him. His mind raced, desperate to process the whirlwind of emotions flooding in. Just then, another sound cut through the tension. A loud crash from the kitchen, followed by frantic shouts. Everyone turned, but Lucas felt roots of panic clawing at his chest. He dashed toward the noise, Clara close on his heels. When they burst through the swinging door, chaos greeted them. The cook, Mrs. Bentley, stood wide-eyed, her hands clasped over her mouth. A gleaming knife lay on the floor, shards of shattered glass scattered like confetti. "Someone's hurt!" Mrs. Bentley gasped, voice trembling. Lucas scanned the room, dread pooling in his stomach. And then he saw him, Marco, slumped against the sink, blood trickling down his arm. Adrenaline surged through Lucas, propelling him forward. "Marco!" he shouted, horror curling in his gut as he knelt beside him. "Get something to stop the bleeding!" he yelled, over his shoulder to Clara. Marco's breathing was uneven, his eyes fluttering open and closed. Panic and confusion mixed on his face. "Lucas, I didn't mean to." "Just hold on, Marco," Lucas said, his voice cracking. "I'm here. I'm right here." But the sound of hurried footsteps and the commotion only amplified the dread. Clara rushed back with a dish towel, but Lucas barely registered it. He stared at Marco, and in that moment, another truth crashed over him. "What happened? Did someone do this to you?" The words were sharp, raw. He could barely keep the fear from spilling over. Marco shook his head weakly. "I just wanted to clean the broken glass, and then..." The room spun. Was this an accident or something darker? Something that could tie into the betrayal looming just out of reach. Suddenly, the air shifted. The front door burst open again, and in strode a hulking figure. It was Frank, the family's security chief, his expression grim and unyielding. "What's going on here?" he barked, eyes locking onto Marco. "Get him out!" Lucas shouted, urgency clawing at him. "Get him help now!" But Frank stepped forward, brows furrowing. "Lucas, you need to step away from him." His voice was low, like thunder before a storm. "What?" Lucas's eyes narrowed in disbelief. "Why? He needs a doctor." "No doctor is coming here." Frank shook his head, voice rising. "You don't understand." "What do you mean?" The room teetered on the edge of silence. Marco's eyes shifted in fear. "They can't know. They'll find out." "What are you hiding from me?" Lucas whispered, desperation creeping into his tone. "What's going on, Marco?" A shadow seemed to pass over Marco's face, a flicker of resentment. "You don't know the truth. None of you do." Before Lucas could respond, Clara gasped. "It's all connected, isn't it? The documents, you and your mother?" Lucas turned as the realization hit him, cold and crushing. But it was Marco's pained expression that stabbed deeper. Then it happened. A clap of thunder outside shook the windows, and in the foreboding silence that followed, a siren wailed in the distance, a harsh sound cutting through the chaos. "Lucas," Marco said weakly, yet there was strength in his tone. "I need you to listen." But before he could speak, the lights flickered and the power went out, plunging them into darkness. A million thoughts raced through Lucas's mind, and just as panic began to seep in, he felt Marco's hand clutch his own, a desperate attempt to connect. And then came the loud smash of glass breaking somewhere in the mansion, followed by the unmistakable sound of footsteps drawing near. Lucas gulped, heart racing. "Run!" Marco yelled, pulling away and struggling to stand. But it was too late. The truth was not just at their doorstep. It was breaking down the very walls of their lives. What had once felt like a path leading to clarity, now twisted into a labyrinth of secrets. Would he run, or would he stand and face the truth, whatever that might be? Lucas felt the weight of darkness press down as the power flickered out. Panic rose like bile in his throat. The knife lay forgotten on the floor, and chaos filled the kitchen. Marco's eyes, filled with fear, steadied Lucas for a brief moment. But urgency consumed the space. He wrapped his hands around Marco's wrist, trying to keep him upward. "Don't you dare go anywhere. We're getting you help." Marco nodded, but his face glimmered with pain. "Oh, get the others out. They'll find out if they stay. You don't understand." "I don't care. Just hold on," Lucas replied, forcing his voice to sound stronger than the tremor in his chest. But in the thick black void, the sound of footsteps grew louder. They were coming closer, an echo of authority, creeping through the once protected walls of the Sinclair estate. Lucas barely had time to react. The door swung open, light flooding in, to expose the shadowy figures lurking just outside. His eyes widened in disbelief. Standing there, silhouetted against the light, was his father, Robert Sinclair, flanked by two stern-looking officers. "Lucas, step away from him," Robert commanded, his voice cold and sharp. "Dad, no!" "He needs help. He's—" "Enough!" Robert's voice thundered, drowning out Lucas's pleas. "You have no idea what you're involved in." Lucas felt sick. The officers moved to Marco, but before anyone could intervene, Marco let out a gasp. "Wait! I'll tell him!" The room froze. Everyone turned, and a hush fell over the chaos. Marco tried to rise, but his body slumped back against the counter. "There's something you all need to know." "What is it, Marco?" Clara whispered, her face pale. He took a deep breath, gaze shifting between the crowd. "The documents. They're not what you think. It's about your mother. She—" Before Marco could finish, the lights flickered and then cut out again. Panic surged again, and Lucas felt Clara grasp his arm, fear pulsing through her grip. "Lucas," Robert shouted, voice taut with anger and dread. "We have to leave. Now!" He reached for Clara, pulling her away from Marco. "You don't understand. This is all connected." In the confusion, Marco struggled to keep his voice steady. "I'm not just a janitor. I belong here." "Enough!" Robert roared, and as he lunged forward, the officers moved, But Marco surged up, strength radiating like a flare in the dark. A family secret, Robert. Will you let it die with us? His words hung heavily in the air, full of unforeseen weight. The officers paused, their expressions shifting from stern to skeptical, eyes flicking between Robert and Marco. Then, Marco pulled out a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket and thrust it forward. This photo, this is from the night you... The sudden sound of a gunshot echoed in the kitchen, sending everyone reeling a step back. Lucas felt time stretch, horror wrapping around him like cold steel. He looked to Marco, who staggered, shock in his eyes. The officers' expressions shifted dramatically, their hands reaching for their weapons as the reality of the moment settled in. "What have you done?" Clara shrieked, her voice a mixture of fear and disbelief. But it didn't matter now. The truth, once veiled, was about to explode into the open. The chaos spun around Lucas. Loyalties, family, and friendships twisting in knots. "Mar," Lucas whispered, feeling the world blur around him. The room spun, memories, and, with Marco down, the last thread of truth dangled precariously. What just happened? Who had fired? And why did it feel like the foundation of his entire life was crumbling beneath him? In desperate need to comprehend, Lucas looked around, his heart racing. This wasn't just about secrets anymore. It was about survival. And as the lights flickered back on, illuminating the chaos, the face of betrayal looked back at him. But whose? Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the chaos for a brief second. The air buzzed with dread. Marco slumped against the counter, blood trickling from a wound that grew darker with each passing moment. Lucas's heart beat like a drum, desperation swirling in the cool shadows of the kitchen. "What do you mean, you're not just a janitor?" Robert's voice solidified like ice, cutting through Lucas's frantic pleadings. "This isn't the time for games." "Lucas, listen to me," Marco gasped, squeezing Lucas's hand. "There are things you don't know, things that could destroy everything. I have to tell you." But before Marco could finish, the front door burst open again, this time revealing a figure that made everyone's blood run cold. "That's enough," a stern voice echoed, and in stepped Elena Sinclair, Lucas's estranged grandmother, her presence commanding and fierce, like a storm rolling in. She wore the burden of years, a veil of secrets draped over her shoulders. "Grandma?" Lucas whispered, confusion knitting his brow. "What are you doing here?" "A family is crumbling," she snapped, eyes blazing with a mix of anger and heartbreak. "And it's your choice to face the truth now or live in darkness forever." In that moment, the air thickened. The officers stared, disbelief flashing across their faces. Clara's hand flew to her mouth, grasping at the edges of reality as truth collided with the surreal. Elena stepped forward, her gaze fixated on Marco. "You should have never come back. Do you know what you are risking?" "I have the right to know," he shot back, pushing through his pain. The lights flickered again, shadows dancing like specters as Elena pulled a folded paper from her pocket. "This," she said, voice tremoring slightly, "could change everything." Tension crackled as she unfolded it, revealing a document that looked more like a death warrant than a family memo. "What is it, Grandma?" Lucas urged, the urgency curling his insides. "A bloodline traced back to Betrayal. Marco isn't just connected through your mother. He's your half-brother. But that's not the full truth." "What do you mean?" Clara interjected, brow knit tightly with disbelief. "His mother, your mother, Lucas and I, we were tied by more than just family. We made choices, bad choices." "But why?" Lucas's voice cracked. A lump lodged in his throat. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" And then came the bombshell. Elena's gaze softened for a fleeting second, almost human, as she dropped the paper. "Marco is not just your brother. He's also the child of your father's most deadly secret. A daughter born before your mother. A murder." "Stop!" Lucas shouted, his mind racing. "You're saying Marco's—" "Yes." Elena's voice rang hollow, words slicing like glass. "Your father had a sister. She is the reason for everything. The ties, the betrayals, the cover-ups. Marco is like a shard of everything we tried to bury." Silence fell, heavy and oppressive. Marco's eyes widened. "You mean I'm—" "Yes," Elena hissed, irritation and pain simmering just below the surface. "It's a cursed legacy. We tried to protect ourselves, but it spiraled out of control." Behind them, the officers exchanged uncertain glances, a mix of duty and shock blurring their professionalism. The house reverberated with tension, a dragon's breath before a storm. What do we do now?" Clara whispered, disbelief flooding her voice. "We have to face this truth together," Marco murmured, the shock softening the edge of his pain. His voice wavered, yet a flicker of determination ignited within. But just as hope hovered in the air like a ghost, a loud crash echoed from the hallway. The sound split the moment, capturing everyone's attention. The officers exchanged glances, a tension thicker than smoke weaving through the air. "Check it out!" one of them barked, and Lucas's heart raced. He shot a worried glance at Marco, who met his gaze with unshed tears wrestling for dominance. "I knew I'd end this, one way or another," Marco whispered, determination mingling with fear. "End what?" Lucas's heart sank. An avalanche of confusion travailed through him again. "Whatever happens, I'll protect you," Marco promised, even as doubt loomed stronger than before. Just then, the front door flew open again with a force that rattled the walls, revealing a shadowy figure. Lucas's breath hitched. It was a face he recognized too well, a face he had trusted. His father stepped in firmly, gun drawn, eyes steely and resolute. "Get away from my son!" And in that heartbeat, the world contorted again, leaving Lucas on a precipice of chaos. Was this the moment that shattered everything? What truth awaited them, tangled in the threads of their lives. Lucas felt a cold wave of dread wash over him as his father's gun glinted ominously in the stark light. "Get away from my son," Robert yelled, eyes blazing, his voice a jagged edge slicing through the chaos. "Dad, please." Lucas's heart raced, his eyes darting between Robert and Marco, who struggled to stand, tension vibrating in the air. "He needs help. You don't understand." But Robert's gaze was steely, unyielding. "No one is helping him. He's dangerous." "Dangerous? What are you even talking about?" Lucas shouted, anger igniting within him. "He's my friend." Marco, gasping for breath, tried to rise again. "Lucas, listen!" But before he could finish, a flicker of something deeper sparked in Robert's eyes. "You don't know who he really is." "What? Who is he?" Clara gasped, urgency quaking her voice. With that, the front door swung open again, and Mrs. Bentley stumbled in, her face pale. "What a night. There's news you all need to see. It's about the Sinclair estate." But she wasn't finished. Then her voice dropped to a whisper. "It's about the connection to the Morales family." Lucas froze. "What do you know about them?" "Everything's tied together, Lucas. Your father has been hiding the truth about your mother, about Marco's mother too." "Enough," Robert shouted, cutting her off. "Get out! We're not discussing this here." "Yes, we are," Mrs. Bentley pushed back. "You've long since played God over everyone, but it's time the truth came out." Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the hallway, and the lights flickered again. Lucas's heart dropped. Marco's face twisted with despair. "They're here, Lucas. The Morales family is connected through blood." "Stop it!" Robert roared, voice thick, anger boiling over. But just as chaos swirled, footsteps thundered down the hall. Lucas's breath quickened. The sound grew louder, closer. Then, out stepped a figure cloaked in a long coat and shadows. It was enveloped in darkness, just like the secrets that had bound them all. The room held its breath, the tension palpable. "Robert?" The figure's voice slithered through the air, smooth and chilling. Lucas squinted, trying to discern the intruder's face. An unsettling familiarity clawed at his memory. Suddenly, the figure leaned forward, stepping into the glow, and Lucas gasped in horror. "Rebecca?" It was his mother. "Alive!" Whispers broke out around the room, shock unspooling in jagged gasps. Lucas's mind raced. "How? You disappeared!" Her eyes danced with brilliance and something far darker. "I had to protect us, Lucas. You're in danger. Everything you know, it's a facade. And Marco?" "Don't say it!" Robert growled, taking a step closer, eyes wide in disbelief and rage. "Why are you here?" Clara's voice trembled, caught between fear and a desperate need for answers. "What's going on?" "It's not just your family anymore," Rebecca said slowly, glancing at Marco. "It's about the Morales. They've been after us for years. They want their claim back." Marco's eyes widened, realization dawning. Claim? What claim? Rebecca looked straight at Robert. You know the truth about the land, about the betrayal. I had to hide. All of us. It's time for you to choose. Robert, blood or fortune? Darkness hovered, momentarily frozen in the face of explosive revelation. Lucas felt the room twist and turn, emotions crashing like waves. Everything he thought was solid slipped away. A sense that everything had been a lie settled heavily on him. What does that mean? He demanded, voice cracking with fear. Lucas, Marco whispered, clutching Lucas's arm, pain etched on his face. What if this was all planned? The world felt unsteady, tilting dangerously. Cold dread spread in his chest like ice. Was their friendship built on a foundation of greed and manipulation? Outside, the first drops of rain began to fall, splattering against the windows. Thunder crashed overhead, echoing the turmoil building within. Everything was about to change. Would alliances shift? Would family ties be severed? Choose wisely, Rebecca warned. And in that moment, Lucas understood. This wasn't just about secrets anymore. It was about survival. What would he do now? What unexpected ally might emerge from the shadows? Lucas felt the weight of darkness press down as his mother's presence hung in the air. She had returned, a figure cloaked in mystery and chaos, her eyes burning with urgency. Blood or fortune, she had said, and somehow it felt like their lives hung by a thread. Mom, he started, heart racing. How could you just disappear? You have to explain. His words came in a rush, desperation pulling him tighter. The kitchen felt small, suffocating. Lucas, it's complicated, Rebecca replied, her voice wavering. I thought I was protecting you. I didn't want you mixed up in this. Mixed up in what? Clara interjected, disbelief etching her features. You've turned our lives upside down. Before anyone could process her words, a chilling howl of wind sliced into the room, rattling the windows. It was almost a warning, sending goosebumps racing down Lucas's arms. He felt it. Something was building. Suddenly, a loud bang erupted from behind them, shaking the entirety of the estate. Lucas spun around, eyes wide. What was that? The door creaked open, and in stumbled a figure, drenched and wild-eyed. It was Frank, the family's security chief, breathing heavily, panic etched on his face as rainwater dripped from his hair. "They're coming!" he shouted, eyes darting around. "The Morales family knows we're here!" His words ignited chaos. Clara screamed, hands flying to her mouth. Robert's face twisted in rage. "This is ludicrous! We can't let them in!" But before anyone could react, a shadow shifted just outside the threshold. Lucas stepped forward, heart pounding, and caught a glimpse that froze him in place. It was Marco standing at the threshold, a feverish light in his eyes. But then, Lucas noticed the glint in his hand. A weapon, a real gun, held loosely, but with determination. "Marco, what are you doing?" Lucas whispered, confusion battling fear. I've had enough, Marco replied, voice steady, but a tremor laced through. This is my life, and I'm not letting anyone take it from me, especially not the Morales family. Put that down, Robert commanded, voice rising above the chaos. This is not the way. But Marco shook his head slowly, a sorrowful look etched on his face. I'm done being the pawn. You think you've all been making choices for me, but the truth? It's all lies. Do you want to know who I really am? Everyone held their breath. Time hung in front of Lucas like a still photograph, tension palpable, waiting. But just as Marco seemed ready to speak, the darkness outside pulled tighter, the storm growing more violent. The windows rattled, and then the lights flickered once, before plunging the room into total darkness. A murmur of dread rolled like thunder. The air tingled as fear settled deeply in everyone's gut. In that swirling void, a gunshot rang out. A sharp report echoed against the walls, reverberating like a cruel joke. Marco! Lucas shouted, lunging forward. But instinct propelled him too fast. He collided with Clara, their bodies tumbling to the ground. The room erupted into chaos. Blurred shapes moving in the darkness, bodies scrambling for safety and answers. As Lucas rolled over, the tremors of fear shot through him. Visions of Marco wrapped around his thoughts. Silence then fell, a chilling kind of quiet. Slowly, the lights flickered back on, the room shimmering into view. Lucas blinked, breath hitching. Marco lay sprawled on the floor, eyes wide and empty. Blood pooled around him. Time warped as Lucas's mind screamed. No! He roared, heart breaking, eyes welling with shock and despair. Marco! A gasp of disbelief erupted from Clara. What happened? Robert's face was a mask of horror, and Elena's stoic demeanor cracked. No, it can't be. But then, just as everything felt painfully real, the shadow shifted once more. A tall figure stepped into the light, wearing a smirk that made Lucas's blood run cold. It was a face he recognized from years past, a ghost he thought buried long ago. Did you think this was just about money or power? Came the voice, smooth and mocking. No, this is about bloodlines, about what you don't know. It was Rebecca's brother, Jackson, who had vanished after a family scandal, a man nobody in the household had mentioned for years. And as for Marco, he paused, letting the silence hang like a weight before finishing. That's just the beginning. And in that split second, everything collapsed. The truth, buried under layers of lies and deception, was threatening to resurface, revealing secrets that could tear the family apart, if they'd even survive the night. Lucas stared, shock coursing through him. What did he mean? How deeply was their family entwined with darkness? The room felt ready to implode, as one truth replaced another, forever altering their lives. Who are you? Lucas whispered, sense of dread creeping back in. Jackson smiled, a wicked glint in his eyes, layering the room in poignant uncertainty. And in that profound moment, Lucas realized their fight for survival had only just begun. Lucas stared at Jackson, confusion swarming in his mind like a violent storm. The shadows of truth loomed like a dark cloud, heavy and suffocating. And then he realized, amid the chaos, that the entire world around him felt like it was shattering, spiraling out of control. "Who are you?" His voice trembled, raw with disbelief. "Did you really think you could trust anyone, Lucas?" "The truth is far more sinister than you know," Jackson smirked, stepping closer. In that instant, a low rumble echoed through the mansion, shaking the walls. But Lucas didn't notice. All he could feel was a tightening in his chest. Marco's body on the floor sent waves of panic crashing over him. The urgency clawed at his throat as he glanced back and forth. "What do you mean?" But Jackson's laughter, dark and biting, pierced through. "Little brother, you're not just fighting for your family's legacy. You're fighting against it. You and I, we share more than just blood. The Sinclair Empire runs through our veins." Then it all began to unravel. Lucas staggered backward, mind racing. "You can't be serious. We're not—" "Not brothers," Jackson interrupted, eyes glinting with malice. "Oh, but we are. Your mother's secret, your father's web of lies, it all started with us." Everyone stood frozen, mouths agape. The atmosphere felt like thick fog wrapping around them, tightening its grip. Then, with a mighty crash that shook the mansion, the front door burst open again. Lucas wheeled around as armed figures, faces obscured by masks, stormed into the room, weapons drawn. The sense of impending doom filled the room, cold and palpable. "Get on the ground!" one shouted, voice muffled but firm. Lucas's heart raced. "What's happening?" Panic rippled through everyone. His family was frozen in shock. "Move!" a masked figure barked, and chaos erupted. Bodies scrambled, screams echoed, and Lucas dove for Marco, adrenaline racing through his veins. "No!" he cried, tears brimming as he pulled Marco closer. "We need to get him help!" But the masked intruders rushed forward, seizing Clara and pulling her away. "Hold her," one ordered, and Clara cried out in terror. "These are our lives, our families!" Lucas shouted, but it fell on deaf ears. Jackson stepped back, a smirk plastered on his face, as if he were watching a play unfold. "You should have chosen your loyalties wisely. They're here for more than just words. The Morales family doesn't forgive easily." "What do you want?" Lucas demanded, rage and fear surging through him. "I want you to understand, little brother." Jackson leaned closer, whispering like he was sharing a terrible secret. "This isn't just about revenge. This is about reclamation." Suddenly, without warning, a loud explosion rang out from the direction of the hallway. A blast of heat and light engulfed the room, and the walls trembled. Smoke filled the air, swirling like a sinister specter. Lucas's heart stopped as he staggered back. What just happened? In the chaos, he barely registered Jackson's laughter rising above the commotion. Let the games begin. Everything shifted, darkness closing in like a nightmare. The sense of danger was electrifying, crackling around him as he fought to keep his footing. Relationships that had once felt solid now felt like they were teetering on the edge of the abyss. Amid the smoke, Clara's scream pierced through. "Lucas!" The urgency gripped him as fear twisted in his gut. And then, in the midst of it all, a whisper of truth rang in his ear. "You are not safe. You never were." Before he could process, another fire erupted, filling the space with a blinding light. He felt warmth close in on him, and as he turned, the masked figures began to retreat, huddling near the now glowing door. It became clear. Secrets festered like wounds, and within that moment, Lucas grasped the gravity of everything. The betrayals, the ties that bound them, the horror of realizing that family could become a weapon. Would he survive this night? Would the truth shatter them all before dawn? As the smoke swirled, Lucas glanced at Marco, at Clara, at everyone, a swirl of chaos. What lay ahead would demand choices none of them were ready to make. Would they fight for their lives, or surrender to the shadows of their pasts? Everything had changed. Could trust ever return? Lucas's heart raced as Marco lay on the floor, his breaths shallow. The chaos erupted around him like a storm, the masked men yelling, the air thick with fear, his mind tangled with confusion and dread. "What just happened?" he demanded, glancing around. Clara was clutching Robert's arm, eyes wide. The officers were tense, their hands twitching near their weapons, unsure of the chaos enveloping them. "Everyone, stay calm," one of the officers shouted, but panic was already spreading like wildfire. "Get him out! He needs help!" Lucas pleaded, voice cracking as he reached for Marco. The urgency flooded his veins, but in that instant, everything changed. There was a loud crash from the hallway, a noise so sharp it cut through the fear. Lucas spun around, eyes wide with dread. A figure emerged from the smoke, backlit by the flickering kitchen lights. His heart stopped. "It's time to end this charade," the figure boomed, stepping into the light. It was a woman, tall and commanding, with eyes that burned like embers. Her hair flowed like a dark river down her back. Lucas's breath caught in his throat. "Anna?" he gasped, disbelief washing over him. His estranged sister, thought lost forever in a world of secrets and lies. "Lucas," she said, voice steely, meeting his gaze head-on. "Everything you think you know is about to change." "What do you mean?" Lucas felt a deep fear knotting in his stomach, uncertainty curling around his heart. "I've watched you flounder in this web of lies," she declared, stepping closer, her presence demanding attention. "You think your family's wealthy name can protect you? But they've been running from the truth far too long. The Morales family, they're not the only ones looking for blood." Her words unfolded like a nightmare. Lucas shook his head, processing. "What are you saying?" "You're not just a Sinclair," Anna continued, her voice steady but urgent. "You're Morales, too. My father, your real father, he was involved in something far greater. Something dark. It's why I disappeared. The truth is more powerful than you realize." Gasps echoed through the kitchen, shock rippling through the group. Clara's eyes widened, a mixture of confusion and anger flashing across her face. "Enough of this," Robert shouted, fury boiling over. "You're lying. This is nonsense." But Anna kept her gaze fixed on Lucas. "It's true, and I've come back to help you. The Morales family, they want their legacy restored, and it starts with you." "But I don't want any part of this," Lucas shouted, disbelief turning to anger and desperation. "Don't you see?" Anna pleaded, eyes burning with intensity. "You have the power to either destroy this cycle of lies or become part of it. They've been hunting for a key, someone with Sinclair blood to claim their stake." The realization hit Lucas like a punch. Was this why Marco had been so drawn to him? Why everything felt different? A deep connection, born in shadows. "Lucas," Marco gasped, struggling to sit up, fear pooling in his eyes. "It can't be true." "You won't join them." The air buzzed with tension. Robert stepped forward, his expression frozen in fear. "This is treason. You can't side with them." Side with whom? Lucas felt his heart racing. "Is this what you wanted, Dad? To hide this?" "No, Lucas, Robert stammered, glancing between Anna and Lucas, panic twisting his features. "What's it going to be, Lucas?" Anna pressed, voice taut with urgency. "Will you step into the light, or stay buried in the shadows?" But before he could answer, the masked figures moved, rushing toward Anna, their intent clear. Lucas felt his breath hitch. "Get down!" he screamed, but a shot rang out before he could process. The world slowed. Lucas turned, eyes wide, as everything exploded into chaos. Anna fell, eyes glassy, and shock filling their depths. "Anna!" Lucas cried, rushing toward her, the ground shifting beneath him. The truth hung heavy in the air, and as he knelt beside her, clutching her hand, he felt everything fracture around him. "Stay with me!" he yelled, heart pounding. But Anna's breaths were fading, and Lucas could only whisper a desperate promise. And in that moment, as her eyes fluttered shut, the weight of everything crashed down. The dark secrets, the betrayals, they might just lead to his ruin. Where would he go from here? Who could he trust now that the facade had crumbled? Lucas felt the world tilt as Anna's body lay on the floor, eyes slowly closing. Panic surged through him, hot and fierce. "No, stay with me!" His hand shook as he tried to check for a pulse. The chaos around him pulsed, a wild mix of shouts, confusion, and the acrid stench of burnt smoke. He heard Clara's terrified screams fade into the background. Robert stood frozen, mouth agape, unable to comprehend what just happened. The masked figures were retreating, eyes darting nervously, weapons still drawn. "Get out!" one of them shouted, looking like the weight of the world had pressed down on him. The room felt like it was closing in. Everything was a blur, emotions spiraling into a dark pit of despair. "What are you doing?" he managed to choke out, heart racing. Anna's eyes flickered, revealing a spark of life beneath the pain. "Lucas, it's not—" "Don't you dare leave me!" He squeezed her hand tighter. But as her breath slowed, his heart sank lower. "I need you, Anna," he wailed, desperation lacing his voice. Suddenly, Marco was beside him, wrestling through the fear. "Lucas, listen, we have to go. They'll come back." His voice was urgent. "No, I can't just leave her. Please." Marco's brow was furrowed with pain. "We can't stay here. This isn't safe." The masked figures slipped into the shadows, leaving chaos in their wake. Lucas glared after them, rage surging. "Why should we? They've torn my family apart." But in that moment, the darkness crept closer, pulling him under. "Lucas, we'll find a way, I promise." Marco's eyes, filled with determination, anchored him back. As Lucas finally tore his gaze from Anna, the clouds outside thrashed with thunder. The rain splattered against the glass, washing away the remnants of chaos. "What do we do now?" he asked, his voice trembling. "We fight for the family that's left," Marco stated, gripping Lucas's shoulder. "We can't let their secrets control us any longer." Clara stepped forward, eyes gleaming with fear and defiance. "Yes, we need to expose everything. The truth can free us." "Together," Robert added, his voice a mix of conviction and helplessness. "If we stand united, we can face the Morales family and whatever else comes our way." Lucas nodded slowly, tears still pooling in his eyes. "But what about Anna?" "I'll never forget her," Marco whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "But she wouldn't want us to give up. We have to honor her by living. We need to uncover the truth about our bloodlines, about everything." And just like that, hope ignited amidst the ashes of despair. They turned towards the door, united as a family once again. The battle ahead loomed large, but this time, they wouldn't succumb to darkness. As the rain poured down, Lucas felt the weight of new resolve settle within him. He would face this head-on. With Marco and Clara by his side, he knew they could conquer whatever lay ahead. And just as they stepped into the night, a new question loomed. What lay beyond those dark doors? What truth awaited them in the depths of their tangled legacies? As the sound of rain mixed with distant thunder, a sharp determination surged through him. Now, it's your turn to join this journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Click the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to know how it ends. Don't wait another second to support the channel. Only true fans understand the importance of your actions.